during the penalty shootout has actually sparked a lot of controversy, criticism, and then uproar from the football world. So it's not just Atletico Madrid fans who are livid and vexed about the decision to just overturn that Julian Alvarez goal, but then it's actually the football world, and there's quite a lot happening. UEFA has also released a statement, and we'll be having a look at what UEFA is saying because this is actually, a precedent, and perhaps going forward there could be more to talk about. Or even if there should be a repetition of this, then perhaps there would be something to refer to, and that's quite a lot we would be talking about. Not just that, but then also we'll be taking a comprehensive review with regards to the games that were played in the UEFA Champions League. Wednesday games actually where Borussia Dortmund also got themselves a 2-1 win away at Lille. Quite a big win for them. Arsenal were held to a 2-0 draw by PSV, but then the Gunners qualified 9-3 on aggregate because they did almost 99% of the job in the first leg at the Philips Stadium when they won by 7-1. So that's what we'll be talking about on this episode of the POV. I'm here to just share my view, so it's my point of view. That's one thing. But then you can also make us hear your thoughts, your opinions, what you think about the Julian Alvarez goal that was chalked off during the penalty shootout between Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid yesterday at the Metropolitano. Like I said, my name is Joseph. But don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Quite a lot we have for you each and every time. As far as sports is concerned, it's the Our Media channel, and then also follow us across other various social media handles. It's on X, Our Media Hub, same on Facebook, and then also in Insta, and then also on TikTok. All right, so let's start off with the game that was played yesterday. So Atletico Madrid hosting Real Madrid. And you know that Real Madrid have actually been Atletico Madrid's nemesis in Europe in the last 10-15 years. So there hasn't been a single time Atletico Madrid, has been able to eliminate their city rivals, at any stage at all in the UEFA Champions League. Obviously, in the group stages where they've met a couple of times, especially in the grand finale, they've met twice at that stage, and at both times, it's been Real Madrid edging their city rivals. They call them the noisy neighbors. So it was a big game. Real Madrid leading 2-1 into the second leg, and then Atletico Madrid, having a bright start to that game. So Gallagher scored just 29 seconds into the game, and then you'll be thinking, see, it was going to be a long night for Real Madrid. Looking at, the fans, the atmosphere, the euphoria, how charged the atmosphere was. But then Real Madrid were able to hold on, until they got a penalty for themselves, and then Vini Jr. ended up skyrocketing the penalty. So the result still kept at 1-0 until 90 minutes was completed. Then into extra time, none of the teams could, just get a goal. So obviously there was going to be a penalty shootout to separate the two sides. So during the penalty shootout, interesting scenes, something that's quite unprecedented, if I should put it, since the implementation and introduction of VAR, that's the video assistant referee. So it was even after the first two kicks, and then Julian Alvarez, had to step up to take the penalty for Atletico Madrid. So, during his kick, before he kicked the ball, at some point he slipped, and that's what you're currently watching on the screen. So after slipping, it was adjudged. He slipped, he managed to hit the ball, he scored. So we were thinking, yeah, it was even, at 2-2. Because Atletico Madrid had managed, or Julian Alvarez had managed to score. But then, unfortunately, there was a point where Kylian Mbappe and then also Lucas Vazquez, who was Madrid's captain, during the time, conferring with the referee, and it looked like some protest. So the referee had to confer with VAR for me, which I didn't even understand why VAR would come into play during a penalty shootout, because I thought VAR, actually works when the game is in session during, regulation time or even extra time, but not during the shootout. And even if VAR was going to work, it only checks that for encroachment, and then also to check if the goalkeeper had not gotten off his line. So at that point, you wouldn't say that jurisdiction required VAR's intervention. It's another issue, that could be discussed later on, but that was where the bone of contention is. Was it even necessary for VAR to intervene? Because if you read the FIFA rules, then at that point, you don't even need VAR to intervene. And then also the second question has to do with the fact that now, yes, in football, it's illegal to touch the ball twice during a penalty kick. So that's a double touch would mean that an indirect free kick will be awarded to the defendant or the defensive side. So they would rather restart play and the ball will be handed over to them. So, during a penalty shootout, there are certain rules we know are normal, especially if the goalkeeper should move off his line. Then perhaps the referee would instruct the kicker to retake the penalty because the goalkeeper would have faulted, the rules. But at this point, if there's a double kick during a penalty shootout, isn't there any law that says that the kicker is entitled for a retake? That is where the issue is. And trust me, see, it's caused an uproar, and so it's been a very controversial decision, and this has led to UEFA also issuing a statement, which I'll be reading out. But I think even Diego Simeone after the game was so egged, and one of the things he said was that he was so disappointed in the media men out there who were not saying anything because they were afraid to even speak. But that's typical Diego Simeone. But then for Don Carlo, his side, are marching through to the quarterfinal stage of the UEFA Champions League. They'll be playing against us now, and he was quite okay. But then also people talk about the character of Real Madrid. Some say it's not a character, but it's always a robbery of VAR and UEFA just trying to work things for them. I don't know what you're thinking. It's quite controversial. I do not want to say anything about that, but then I feel that it was just an unfair decision, to have ruled out Julian Alvarez's goal, which could have potentially changed the narrative, of the shootout, and perhaps maybe Atletico Madrid would have been in the last 8 of the UEFA Champions League and not Real Madrid. But for Madrid, we've seen so many decisions go their way in the UEFA Champions League. And some people say it's the character of the Los Blancos. Others say, it's the spirit of the competition backing them. I don't know what you think. But Julian Alvarez, after his goal was chalked off, he was being asked by his teammate if the ball actually touched the other foot. And he was like, no, he's not sure. But then also the referee came out saying that there's a sensor in the ball, which actually, gave the indication that it was a double touch. So quite a lot happening. But for me, I felt it was just, unfortunate. It was just unfair for VAR to have intervened at that point. I felt, the best decision would have been for a retake, at least, if it was adjudged to have been a double touch before the ball was kicked. Then perhaps there should have been a retake, similar to when a goalkeeper, comes off his line and encroaches. Then that's it. I just feel it was just unfortunate. So this was the official statement from UEFA on the Julian Alvarez penalty. So, and I read, Atletico de Madrid inquired with UEFA over the incident, which led to the disallowance of the kick from the penalty mark taken by Julian Alvarez at the end of yesterday's UEFA Champions League match against Real Madrid. Now, they go on to say, although minimal, the player made contact with the ball using the standard foot before kicking it, as shown in the attached video clip. Under the current laws of the game, that's law 14.1, the VAR had to call the referee, signaling that the goal should be disallowed. UEFA will enter discussions with FIFA and IFAB to determine whether the rule should be reviewed in cases where a double touch is clearly unintentional. I don't know, for clarity or for contextual clarity purposes. I don't know which professional footballer in this world would want to double touch a penalty or play a penalty. So that's what UEFA is saying. But for Julian Alvarez, Atletico Madrid, commiserations to them. They are out of the UEFA Champions League. My point of view, I felt the ball should have, the referee could have ordered for a retake, instead of rather just, chalking off that goal, which led to the elimination of Atletico Madrid from the UEFA Champions League. Quite sad moment for them. I just can't comprehend what actually happened. But that's the game of football, sometimes cruel. But for Real Madrid, they cruise into the last 8. They'll be facing Arsenal in the quarterfinal stage of the UEFA Champions League. Now, let's look at other games being played. Arsenal were 7-1 victors in the first leg. So they traveled to PSG. They got a job done 7-1. And you'll be thinking, Has there been in the history of the UEFA Champions League any team at all that has been able to overturn a 6-0 deficit? No, and the status quo remained the same after Arsenal managed to get a 2-2 draw. But in that game, I think the star man of the game was Sterling, Raheem Sterling, who assisted Arsenal's 2 goals. It was actually the first time since 2019 he's been involved, in 2 goals, or directly involved in 2 goals in the UEFA Champions League. The last time he did so was when Manchester City trashed Schalke, heavily in the UEFA Champions League. And he brought his experience to fore. Arsenal's season has been blighted with lots of injuries. So there's no Bukayo Saka, there's no Gabriel Jesus, there's no Kai Havertz. There's quite a lot of injury situations within the Arsenal club. But for Arsenal to get a 2-2 draw away from home tells you, or at home, to proceed or even advance to the quarterfinals tells you, how good and solid the team is. So 2-2 at the end of 90 minutes against PSV. They qualified 9-3 on aggregate. They'll be facing Real Madrid. I'm sure we'll be talking about that one because I know you'll have a lot to say about that one. But don't forget to drop your comment in the comment section. Now to our one other game that was played was the Borussia Dortmund game. They also set up, a mouth-watering, scintillating clash with Barcelona in the last 8. But for Borussia Dortmund, the goal they considered in that game against Lille was down to goalkeeping error. I felt the goalkeeper could have done better after Jonathan David's, shot just went through his legs. Quite an awful goal to concede. But Borussia Dortmund also showed that, yes, they've won the Champions League before. In 1997, they were crowned champions. And it tells you that as far as the competition is concerned, they have the pedigree and they have, some bit of history backing them. So they come from a goal down, Emre Can scoring from the penalty spot after Shil Grassi had been fouled in the box. And then also Maximilian Bayer also getting them the winning goal. So quite interesting takes from the UEFA Champions League second leg games that were played. Villa were also, in action. But for Villa, I feel that Unai Emery is doing a good job. No, Aston Villa, after also beating Club Brugge by 3-0, advance with a 6-1 score line. And they'll be facing Paris Saint-Germain. And guess what? So the current manager of Aston Villa is a former manager of Paris Saint-Germain. That's Unai Emery. So he coached, Paris Saint-Germain at some point before moving to Spain and then eventually joining Aston Villa. And then there's one player who also moved this season during the January transfer window straight from PSG on loan to Aston Villa. And that is Marco Asensio, who has been in some, hot form for the Villa since joining. So he scored twice in that demolition, 3-0 demolition of Club Brugge. And then he took his tally to 7 goals in 8 games for the West Midlands club. That tells you how good he's been for them. And I believe that this guy would just be, relishing that matchup against Paris Saint-Germain. Paris Saint-Germain themselves they did themselves a huge favor by knocking out Liverpool, one of the tournament's favorites, after the group stages. So it's all set for the quarterfinal stage of the UEFA Champions League. Quickly, so those are the fixtures coming up. It is Barcelona playing against Borussia Dortmund. Bayern Munich against Inter Milan. That's one of the games of the quarterfinal stage. There's Arsenal also taking on Real Madrid. Would you believe it? Arsenal taking on Real Madrid. And then you have Aston Villa also locking horns with PSG. So that's it. You can also have your say with regards to the Julian Alvarez penalty kick controversies. Was VAR right to have intervened? And was it even the right call after consulting VAR? You think Atletico Madrid has been cheated? And even some fans saying that they believe that the game should be, maybe the penalty shootout should be replayed, at least, for justice to prevail. I don't know what you think. My name is Josiah.